We're on here today with American-Amicable, Mr. Darren. Of course, we love having Darren on. We've had him on a couple times to talk about their product. Of course, he's with American-Amicable. So again, I always want to make sure you guys know that you can write this business on our Life Center. All products are available there for you to be able to write them there. So an easy transition from the MedSup Center over to the Life Center to be able to move some of that business there, and a lot of convenience when it comes to the Life Center as well. Of course, you can always utilize American-Amicable to produce to get to our lead program, right? So I always want to talk to you guys about that. So just a couple things, of course. Again, we've talked to Mr. Darren. Love having him on. Love the stuff that he brings to us. So I'll close my mouth and I'll transfer right over to Mr. Darren. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Brent. I look forward to today's session. I always appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys about what we have to offer here at American-Amicable. Just making sure you hear me okay, correct?
I can. Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. I'll go ahead and jump right in here. Just real briefly, who we are at American-Amicable. I've been around since 1910, so long established company, been located in Waco, Texas that entire time. That's where all of our operations are located there. A-rated with AM Best. And we've been doing simplified issue, which includes final expense. Actually, it's closer to about 22 years now. So definitely not a new market for us. We're accustomed to operating in this space, both from trying to provide agents in this space the best service, but also policyholders in this business the best service. So it's kind of a combination of things. Main thing is it's just not our first rodeo dealing with the senior market. Our main final expense product is called the Senior Choice. This is the product for individuals 50 to 85. There's a minimum death benefit of $2,500 that can be applied for. And then we have 3 different death benefit plans. And I'm going to discuss each of these in greater detail in a moment, describe how they pay out the death benefit, as well as go over some of the riders that we have available, including some optional riders and a couple that we include at no additional cost. I know this is a busy slide here. Each final expense company typically has some variation of these death benefit plans. So I just want to familiarize you with our terminology. Day one coverage or full death benefit, we refer to that as the immediate death benefit plan. Clients up to age 75, we go up to 50,000 of coverage. And as the name implies, at any time after the policy is issued, if death occurs, then the full face amount is paid to the beneficiary. And just to give you some sense of if you're writing business with us, if you were to write 100 policies that we issue, 75 of those policies thereabouts would be in that immediate category. Obviously, these are the healthiest of the individuals and the cheapest rates. If they're not eligible for that plan, they could qualify for our graded plan. And the way it pays out the death benefit is if they die during the first policy year, we will pay 30% of whatever the face amount is. So a $10,000 policy would pay out $3,000 in that example. If death occurs in the second year, that becomes 70%. And then once they live past the second year, it's a full death benefit payout. A nice little plan, but we don't see a lot of cases actually issued in that category. So if you're writing with, again, that 100 examples, you may see 4 or 5 cases that fall into the graded category. Lastly, we have our return of premium. Some companies refer to it as the modified plan. And there is a difference depending upon the issue age. From 50 to 64 issue ages, it's a 3-year period during which, if they pass away, what the beneficiaries are receiving at that point are the premiums that have been paid in plus 10% interest on those premiums. Once they reach outside of 3 years, then it's a full death benefit payout. If they're 65 or older when they buy the policy, same thing, except it's a 2-year period where premiums are paid back plus interest. And that represents about 20, the remaining 20 of those policies that we would issue. So that's just a breakdown of the three plans, how they work. And again, each company typically has some variation of these with some minor differences. One rider I'm going to take a few extra minutes to talk about. It's optional, but certainly helps a lot of agents make additional sales, as well as makes our sales more sticky, if you understand what I'm saying in terms of staying on the books. It's their grandchild rider, and it also covers great grandchildren as well. At its core, it's term insurance that covers those kids through their age 20. No one likes to think about the passing of a grandchild. It's a terrible thing to think about, but unfortunately, sometimes that does happen, and those funerals can be just as expensive as adult funerals. And someone's got to pay for those, as well as, and that could be the parents of the kid as well as their grandparents paying. So this is there in that unfortunate event, kind of as a safety net, as insurance is. It's purchased in either one unit, which is 5,000 term, or you can double that, 2 units, which is 10,000 coverage. You can cover as many grandchildren under this policy as you'd like. I think I've seen as many as 13 grandchildren added to one policy before. In addition to providing that term death benefit, it does have a really neat conversion privilege, which allows every grandchild that's covered under this rider to be able to convert to their own policy with us on a guaranteed issue basis. So there's no underwriting involved. If they have the 5,000 of term coverage, they can convert up to a $25,000 policy. If they have the 2 units or the 10,000 coverage, they can have up to a $50,000 policy. So again, it's conversion without any underwriting. And when you think about grandparents, they may not have the financial legacy to pass along to their grandkids, but they can provide pass along an insurance legacy, if you will, through the coverage under this rider. It's very inexpensive. It's basically $1 a month per grandchild for the 5,000 coverage, or $2 a month for the 10,000 coverage. And one last thing I'll mention: if the primary insured passes away, the coverage under the term insurance is paid up. So let's say the grandchild is 10 years old and the grandparent passes away. For the next 10 years, we would be paying their term insurance. And then they could take advantage of that conversion privilege I mentioned a moment ago. So really a nice thing. And again, as I said earlier, it can help make the buying decision for some seniors, because now they're doing more than just helping themselves or their family members. They're helping their grandkids, which obviously one of the most important things to them. And it makes it harder for another agent to come in behind you and replace this coverage, because again, it's a more complete package of benefits as opposed to just focusing on the primary insurance coverage. 2 other optional riders, just real quickly: the nursing home waiver premium, a neat little benefit that will waive their premium payments in the event they're confined to a nursing home. All that they have to do is be eligible for the immediate death benefit plan, and they can apply for that rider. And accidental death is your standard ADB benefit. Those are optional. And we have 2 no-cost riders. Again, basically every company has a variation of these riders as well. Terminal illness, which allows them to collect up to 100% of their death benefit if they are diagnosed with a life expectancy of 12 months or less. So if the doctor says you've got a short amount of time left to live, you can receive all your death benefit now if you'd like, and that's your money to spend on medical expenses, experimental treatments, final vacation with your family, whatever you want to do with that money, that's yours to spend. And then a confined care rider: if they become a full-time resident in a nursing home, they can opt to receive a monthly payment of 5% of their face amount. So in a $10,000 policy, this benefit would pay $500 a month. And every month they receive a payment, the death benefit is reduced So it would go from 10,000 to 9,500 to 9,000, etc. And over the course of time, they're either going to live long enough so that the entire death benefit has been paid out through those monthly installments, or they'll pass away sometime before that happens, and the remaining death benefit would just be simply paid to their beneficiary. Nice rider, there's a caveat. They must be eligible for the immediate death benefit plan to receive that rider. And there are some states listed at the bottom of the screen there where the rider's not available. But again, two no-cost benefits that are included there. So those are the product specs, and a lot of times those are the kind of the dull things that you have to kind of go through in understanding a product. Where we really see the main difference between us and some of the other companies is in the process of writing the business. Almost everything that we do today is done on our online application, which is www.insuranceapplication.com. And just so you know, for new agents to us, you just simply have to have your writing agent number issued to be able to access this site. So once you've got that, you can start writing business as soon as you have it. It's a real simple process. There's a couple of screens where you're entering in the client information. And at the end of it, we're providing you an on-screen decision. And there's a lot of companies that do that. So we're certainly not alone in providing the on-screen decision. And we're going to look at just a couple of them here real quickly. On this one where we're telling them great news, the client's eligible for the immediate death benefit plan. Obviously, that's what you would love to see 100% of the time riding with us. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the reality there. But when you see this, the good news is you can just wait, to get paid on this case. This next example is really one where we really start making our difference to the agent. And so in this case, the client was applying for an immediate plan, but we come back with a decision for our return of premium option. So number one, we advise you of that. Number two, we advise you why. Well, it was because of the prescription Symbicort. And for those of you familiar with that, it's typically either for asthma or COPD. So we must be assuming it's for COPD here, which is leading to the ROP outcome. But again, the second thing is the reason why. And third, we allow you to challenge the underwriting decision right now by just simply checking the yes box there on the screen and providing some notes. For example, yes, client takes Symbicort, but they're taking it for their occasional asthma flare-ups and not for COPD. If we allow you to challenge those outcomes right there at point of sale. And I've got some statistics to share with you in a moment about how successful that can be. But before we leave this screen, again, that's where you would, the decision, the items affecting the decision, and you're allowed to challenge. And it's those last two things that other companies just typically don't provide, or certainly don't allow for, or don't make it that easy for an agent to do. So once you write a case with us, at the end of it there, you know what our decision is. If you're happy with the outcome, there's nothing more to do. Just wait to get paid. If the outcome is not for the plan applied for, as we said a second ago, you know what the items of concern are. And that information can not only be used to challenge decisions, but it can also be used to make other product decisions for your applicant. Because in some instances, maybe the medication that popped up was something like Aricept. So because of that, that client is not going to be eligible with any of my other FE companies. I should just go ahead and pivot directly to a guaranteed issue option. So that rather than writing a second FE app only to have it declined as well. So by having this information right there at point of sale, now you can make those decisions to go with other product options while you're still with the client, rather than finding out a few days later that you have to go another route. So we put you in a great position as a company to lead with, because of the information that we provide, the companies do not. Now, One of the other outcomes you're going to see when you're writing business with us is a refer to home office outcome. Refer to home office means that our online tools weren't able to make the final call on this case, and we're going to have a human being, an underwriter, review that case further. So in a refer case, I can tell you our stats show that 75% of the time, those ultimately wind up being approved as applied for. So you're not getting the immediate on-screen outcome, but 75% of the time, in a few days, you're going to see, yes, it's approved as applied for. Challenge cases. What I mean by that, those are the cases where you're putting in those notes and you're asking us to further, review this application for consideration with good notes. 75 or 72% of the time, we wind up approving those cases as applied for, meaning that we go with the original plan applied for versus what the initial on-screen outcome was. So it's very likely that if you give us a good explanation, a lot of times we're going to go with what you're looking for, the day one coverage. You'll as you write with us, you'll get more comfortable with the challenge process and see how easy it is, and you'll get some common responses that you'll want to include with very common medications like nitroglycerin. As another example, you're going to run into that quite often, and a lot of times that's not being taken; it's just being filled periodically as it goes stale. Their heart attack was 10 years ago. You can just put those kind of notes in the case, again, to get that further consideration. And as I'm saying here, you have a real good shot of it going out and working out your way. So either whether it's a refer or a challenge case, it's going to take another couple of days to get the final outcome on those. Those are actually being reviewed by, again, a human being that's going to give the final decision on those. On a rare occasion, we do go after medical records. It's about 2-3% of the time. If we do, then the outcome could certainly take more than another couple of days. But generally speaking, within 2-3 business days, you've got your final decision made, even on those two categories of applications. So take advantage of the process. Trust that the process is going to work. When you put in those challenge notes, it's forcing us to look at it. That case must be reviewed. We don't have an option of saying, I don't care what the agent said. We're just going to go with what our on-screen decision was. It forces us to review it. And that can be a very powerful thing. At the end of the day, it allows you to be as involved in the underwriting process as you'd like. And we arm you with as much information as we can to be effective with that. That's the senior choice. And that's the bulk of what we're selling. We have a complementary product called the Family Choice for clients under the age of 50. Similar in a lot of ways to the Senior Choice. There are some differences. The minimum coverage here is 10,000 versus the 2,500 on the other product. We have the immediate, which goes up to 35, and we have return of premium, which goes up to 20. We don't have a graded option for the Family Choice. I will just say that to me, the best reason to have Family Choice available is in those instances where you're maybe trying to sell both spouses a policy. One of them may be 55 and you're riding on final expense, and now you have a 48-year-old spouse that you may not have options with another carrier. At least with Family Choice, you can write a similar product with us. Several optional riders there. Without spending time on them right now, I'll just mention that the children's rider that's there is very similar to the grandchild rider, except it's covering the kids versus grandkids, but it does have a conversion privilege as well. Same two no-cost riders we discussed a moment ago. Now, want to make sure you understand, unlike Senior Choice, the Family Choice does not offer an on-screen decision. So you're going to go through the application process, and at the end of it, you're just simply submitting the application for an underwriter to review it. So just note on Family Choice, do not expect an on-screen decision. It is a different product with different health questions. We bring in, certain things that we don't even ask about on Senior Choice, such as someone's criminal record or driving record, or if they're currently disabled, they can't have the family choice. So I do just mention that so that you're aware. If you're not familiar with family choice underwriting, it is a little bit different. Okay. Beyond that, we do have quite a few other products that we can offer, which is a good thing. We have a lot of different options for your clients. And I'm not going to be able to get into all of those in our session today, but I will touch on a couple of them specifically. The next couple of products that I'm referring to, the common things that you'll find, they're non-medical, meaning no exams, blood work, anything like that that's necessary. Short applications, standard through table 4. What that means is, for those of you who don't know what 4 tables are, and I don't really either, not an underwriter by trade, but there's just a threshold that we will accept certain health conditions or will decline. It's called accept, reject underwriting. So there are no rate ups on these products. You're not going to deal with endorsements to accept a 50% or 100% rate up on these. It's accept, reject underwriting, so you can get quick decisions. There's just a lot of clients out there that prefer the convenience of being able to apply for these kind of products with the quick answers, as opposed to some of the fully underwritten options that are out there. And of course, because of the trade-off on convenience and no blood work, that type of thing, these are going to be more expensive than your typical fully underwritten term. But that kind of goes without saying. And that's the same for all companies that offer simplified issue. The first product is our SafeCare term, which is one that we developed in conjunction with Integrity Marketing. The specs of it, again, I mentioned simplified issue. It has 4 different term durations that you can choose from. During those years, the premiums remain the same, as well as the death benefit same. There is a conversion privilege up to age 75, again, without any underwriting. Digging into some additional specs here, you can see that the minimum issue age is 18, and the max age does depend upon the term duration that you're looking for there. And I will mention, when we're talking about issue ages, there's a column on the far right that says ROP plan. I'm going to talk more about what that is in a moment, but that is not ROP, or return of premium, when you think of final expense. This is a benefit that pays the client back money if they keep their policy in force. That true getting money back while they're still alive kind of thing. It's a rider that's getting more and more rare these days in the industry. And so, as you can see there, we offer it on both the 20-year and 30-year plans. Minimum coverage is $25K, and we go up to a max of $500K. And I do want to point out that max of $500 is for all issue ages. We don't step down the death benefit, the max death benefit, as the client gets older. So no matter what age they are, they could get up to the $500,000 if they qualify. We do have a preferred category, as well as standard, non-tobacco, and tobacco. This product does offer an on-screen decision. So a very similar on-screen decision process that we talked about on the Senior Choice a few moments ago. During the course of it, you may be asked to complete additional questionnaires if it finds certain medications or conditions that we're concerned with. But the good news is, if we need a diabetes questionnaire, for example, it's being requested during the application process rather than being requested a couple of days later by an underwriter. And we will give those details if we do have any adverse, underwriting decisions that are going to be presented on the screen and allow you to challenge them. Now, on a accept reject product, there's really only a couple of outcomes that you're going to see. Either that it has been approved, it has been declined, or it's been referred to home office. There's no stepping down to a graded or return a premium option, obviously on the term like we have on final expense. So a little more straightforward there. Okay, that return of premium option. Again, it is for an additional cost, but it will let them receive 75% of their premiums during the 20 or 30-year period, whichever one that they've selected. So it's when you run an illustration for this product, we'll show you the year over year. It's actually building up cash value, very, very similar to a whole life product would be, or a universal life product would be. The good news is, yes, you can get the full 75% after the 20 or 30 years is up, but you don't have to keep the policy that long just to receive some of your money back. So if you find yourself in the case where you need to cash surrender this policy, as early as the second year, the return of premium benefit does begin to build cash value. And that's what that illustration will show. So if you have to cancel 10 years in to a 20-year term, you're still going to be able to get a nice chunk of your money back. Several other riders, not going to go into all of them this morning, but just know that between disability and critical illness and waiver of premium and accidental death, a lot of different additional coverage options that you can add for your clients to build a particular solution for each one of them. And we have 3 no-cost benefits. Terminal illness works the same way as it did on Senior Choice, no difference there. Then there's confined care. The only difference between what we talked about earlier and how it works on the term is that instead of paying out 5% of the death benefit every month, we're paying out 2.5%. Other than that, it's the same. And this one adds a chronic illness rider. So they can receive up to 95% of their death benefit. We cap it at 150K. So whichever is less there. We can pay out if the physician, doctor says that they're chronically ill, which is typically unable to perform 2 activities of daily living. That's one of the easiest ways to satisfy that requirement. So anyway, another additional rider that we throw in there that allows a client to get some of their death benefit out if one of those life-changing events happens. Going a little bit more into the underwriting, the information that we're looking at, what information is given to us on the app. There is a telephone interview requirement if they're age 65 or older. It has nothing to do with the amount of coverage. So, a 64-year-old applying for $500,000, no phone interview, but 65 and up, they're going to need to do a telephone interview, and it will prompt you to do one at point of sale. We're running an MIB check. We're checking their pharmacy database check, motor vehicle report. So, we're looking at their driving record. And I will just mention here that unlike final expense, where we don't look at driving record, on this, where we do look at driving record, sometimes, you're not thinking about, have they have multiple, tickets in the last couple of months, or have they had, a couple of DUIs, those type of things. Sometimes if you're final expense only, you don't think about those things. But again, those things can come into play on the term. And that's just a quick summary there. Again, up to $500,000, the 4 term durations, a lot of different optional riders, 3 no-cost riders thrown in, version privilege, really nice product offering. And we have several other term products some of you may even be familiar with or may even have written with us. not to say anything negative about those other products, but this SafeCare is kind of a combination of, or best of breeds, if you will, of all of our other term products, trying to make, combine everything into one to make it easier. The second non-medical offering is our Express UL, which is, the name implies, a universal life. You can see the minimum age and max age of 75. As with the term, minimum face 25K, max 500, and a lot of different options in terms of solving for different scenarios. Do you want it to essentially function like a term product so that it lasts for X number of years and then it runs out? Or do you want to solve for a certain amount of cash value, to grow as of a certain age? You've got all kinds of flexibility with the software. And again, won't go into depth, but a lot of different riders, including the terminal illness and confined care. So we have the term, we have a universal life, both of them being simplified issue. I won't get into it much, but you probably will be seeing some announcements on a couple of other products that we're going to be rolling out here pretty soon. So won't give away the farm or give away the surprise just yet. The first one is going to be a participating whole life that we're going to be rolling out here very soon. So be on the lookout for that. And hopefully within the next month or so after that, we'll have an indexed universal life that we'll be rolling out as well. So sorry, won't be able to give you much more than that for today, but we'll just kind of wet your whistle for future training on those new products that we're excited to roll out.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, well, we expect you to come back pretty soon.
Yeah, and again, they're very close to being ready, and we're very excited to have them. So again, we have a lot of different products that can suit several different needs of clients. So you don't have to look around at a bunch of different carriers to try and find an option, or at least we certainly don't think so.
Absolutely.
All right, some other general things for agents. I like to kind of give an idea of what working with American-Amicable is going to kind of look like. Big thing, and again, not as rare as it used to be, but if you're going to be writing in final expense, you must have a company that can draft more premiums in sync with the Social Security calendar. I mean, that's just a given. When you're completing an application with us, there's a question that'll pop up about, do you want the drafts to coincide with Social Security? And if you say yes, you're going to be presented with these 5 options. And again, then we will draft in sync with Social Security. The whole goal being there, if you can draft as soon as possible and get the money, you're going to cut down on return drafts due to insufficient funds. Most of our sales are still done in person, but there's a growing number of sales that are done. I'll use a term remotely, just for lack of a better term, where you don't have to be in the presence of your client to make the sale. Email for signature, straightforward voice signature process, and a fairly new text for signature option that we rolled out. These products will all present these signature options at the end of the application process. So, you can bounce around between them, and you can try them out and see, well, gee, voice seems to work best for me, or, text for signature seems to be my best option. Anyway, that's purely up to you. Those options are always going to be available. This we talked about the on-screen decisions, which are great. A lot of times it's helpful to be able to kind of know ahead of time whether a client might be eligible for coverage with American-Amicable, or potentially, like on final expense, which death benefit option they may be eligible for. So I'm going to talk about 3 things here right now. Each of our products, final expense, term, UL, doesn't matter, have in them, in the product guide, a listing of medical conditions as well as a list of medications. And just following along with that, it'll tell you, eligible or not, or in the case of final expense, which of the three plans they might be eligible for. So those are always going to be available to you. Product guides are available on our supply system on the American-Amicable.com website, but obviously sometimes it's not practical to either have a physical hard copy of that available or even a soft copy. We also have a couple of other tools you can use, including a relatively new one called www, excuse me, 3ws.mmtools.com. You see there on the screen, which can be used for risk assessments and pre-qualifying, as well as an official risk assessment tool where you reach out directly to an underwriter. So first, we're going to look at this mmtools.com site. Once you go here, enter in a medication or a condition. And as it starts to recognize your medication, it'll pop it up for you, so you don't have to worry about being able to spell some of these more complicated items, complicated meds. Once you've selected your med, it's going to return for you 3 different responses depending upon product types. So first one listed here on the screen, product types term. So that applies to the SafeCare term that we were talking about here. Final expense whole life, that would apply to the senior choice product that we were looking at. Younger age whole life, that corresponds to family choice that we looked at earlier. So again, for any of those 3 products, type in the med, type in the condition, and this will give you a good sense for, again, whether they're eligible or not, or which of the death benefit options they could qualify for. And there are other industry-wide tools that will do similar things for multiple companies at one time, but we thought it would be important, for those who don't have access to those tools, to at least be able to look at what American-Amicable does in terms of the underwriting. And then another option is a risk assessment. You want to reach out to us. You want to present your client's information and have us tell you what we think they would qualify for. There's 2 ways of submitting risk assessments. There's a dedicated email address shown there on the screen, riskassess@ahtx.com. And then there's a live chat option available on the agent portal. And I'm going to talk more about live chat in general here in a moment. But either way, by doing this, you just present either the specifics about an individual client that you've been talking to, or maybe more general question, how do you underwrite insulin dependent diabetics on your non-med term product, as example. Those are basically the 2 general categories of request. Then we'll respond back to you with what we, based upon what information we have, what best outcome we think the client will be eligible for. We have 2 main websites that agents will use with American-Amicable. The second one listed there, we've talked about most, because that's where applications are written, the insurance application site. I do also want to put in a plug. If you just simply want to do some quoting, American-Amicable tools, and maybe you don't have access to some of the the industry-wide quoting options, you can quote our product specifically on insuranceapplication.com using the phone quoter option. You can certainly quote within the application itself, but sometimes you don't want to go through all that. You just want a simple quote, and that's where a phone quoter would help you out. So beyond it, writing apps or quoting, then we have the American-Amicable.com website, which is more your back office, your agent portal. So once again, here we go. Check the status of it. You have a permanent, list of all the clients that you ever write with us, with their status will be available there. Access to product materials like the product guides I was mentioning a moment ago. Reporting, all other kinds of stuff, commission statements, so on and so forth, are available there on the American-Amicable.com site. which also includes this live chat feature. Once you log in on American-Amicable.com, you'll be able to access the live chat, and it will allow you to communicate with these various departments listed there on the screen directly. One of the areas is the risk assessment option that I mentioned a moment ago. A great resource. I would encourage you to use it. Especially, sometimes our hold times on the phone do get a little long. I will admit to that. So if you're just trying to talk to our customer service or client experience department, log in here, click client experience, and send us the information or the question that you have on that policy, and we can respond back to these chats really quickly, even though our phones may be kind of tied up at the moment. So a great way of getting access to information without having to call. All right, believe it or not, we do like to have a little fun. And one of the ways we do that is by offering our sales convention. We've done one every year for at least 30 plus years, as long as I know, with American-Amicable. For 2025 production, I'm proud to announce that we're going to Munich, Germany, which has got a lot to offer, a lot of cultural stuff there. It looks like just a ton of fun. So we're going there in June of 2026. Now, to get there as an individual agent, it requires 115,000 of issued and paid production. We've actually increased our limit here recently, but that's because our locations keep getting more and more extravagant and fancy, and so we've had to up our limits. But still, a very reasonable limit to get there. And even though we're not in January, but we're also not in September either, so still a good part of the year to get going and start working towards qualification for this trip. And we do these based upon production from January 1, January 31. And again, we do them every year. So, and there's one nice location after another. In fact, here in June of 2025, we're going to Scotland, to Edinburgh, Scotland. So we're really looking forward to that. Just wanted to kind of give you a sense for where we tend to go on these trips.
Are you going there?
I might be. I might be. Certainly will be there. They're always great. They're truly a reward between taking care of your airfare, the hotel. We do give rewards. We have a full-on award ceremony where every single qualifier gets recognized. We don't just announce our top 10 or so and that's the end of it. Everybody who's there gets their moment in the spotlight to be special. We feel like we get you to go to one of these trips. We're probably going to get you locked in for many years to come.